Hi textile buddies, I'm Darya, textile and surface pattern designer, educator and watercolor painter. On this channel we talk all things textile pattern color and artwork. Patterns are everywhere. In today's video we'll talk about retail product development, where using patterns is only a small but important step of the process. I'm saying retail because in many cases when you hear the expression product development, people mean something from the IT industry. But development of textile or surface pattern designs, as well as the silhouettes, shapes and packaging of products and so much more, is also called product development. And the person who does it is called product development or PD designer in professional slang. This term can be an umbrella term for a variety of designers, for example, textile designers, graphic designers, print designers, meaning those who work on typography. All these professionals who acquire their skills in different departments of art and design colleges can all work together at the same company. I have personally worked on the same team with all the above mentioned, as well as with fashion designers, illustrators and painters. So as always, I will be sharing lots of my own personal experience, and I have worked as an in-house designer for several categories. First for women's and children's clothes, then for adult bedding, then for kids bedding and soft goods such as pillows, play tents, mermaid tails, beach chairs. That was all part of the soft home department, and following that I worked in hard home, where we developed products for home made from paper, various kinds of plastic, ceramics, metal, wood and whatnot. So in all of these places the product development process was the same in a lot of ways, with of course slight variations depending on the actual product. I also have a great video specifically on designing textiles called Color Reduction in Surface Pattern and Textile Design. I mention a lot of the details related to working on textile prints there. As you might guess, product development is a very complex process involving a lot of stages such as planning, cost and price calculations, manufacturing, quality control, design, distribution and so on. So where is the starting point of the design process? I would like to make a disclaimer that I'm sharing what I have experienced in my own words. I did not go to economics school or a business school. I'm a designer, educator and onlooker. There are also lots of things that I do not know in terms of the number of units produced and some sales details, so I will mostly focus on the pattern and print development process and how it plays into the general production timeline. First of all, the product development process depends a lot on the type of product we are developing, and the calendar plays an important role here. It is a very common practice that designs are developed a year ahead, so it's September 2024 now, and it means we are designing for fall/winter of 2025. And depending on your product, you might be heavily or very minimally influenced by the calendar. For example, talking about table linens in the fall, there will be lots of things to come into play. Autumn, harvest, Thanksgiving are all very heavily inspired by harvesting fall vegetables, fruit and flowers. So we will see motifs like sunflowers, pumpkins, fall leaves, dry botanicals and so on. Autumn has a very distinct color palette as well. By the way, is anybody here from Australia or from a different climate zone that differs from the northern hemisphere? Is design as influenced in these places by weather changes as it is here in New England? Comment below. I'm very lucky to live here, where we have beautiful autumns as well as winter, summer and spring, and I'm personally very inspired by the calendar year and all the seasonal nature changes. Speaking of fall, let's not forget about Halloween, which is celebrated on October 31st and is one of the two most celebrated and beloved holidays in the United States, along with Christmas. People in the United States go bananas for Halloween, and the design world responds accordingly by providing tons of thematic products such as a range of home decor, paper table products like napkins and disposable plates. Halloween costumes is a whole different design category, including pet and particularly dog costumes. Here's a career idea for you. I don't think I ever shared it before, I ever mentioned it in any of my videos. But at the same time, some product categories include very little or minimal Halloween designs. For instance, sophisticated bedding like quilts or comforters do not usually reflect this holiday. Also, when I worked at the gift wrapping department, we only worked on Halloween very briefly, as people don't really give gifts for Halloween, so there was nothing to wrap in the wrapping paper, and the only distinct thing to design was treat bags, little goodie bags, along with bags for trick-or-treating, slightly larger or really large bags. But at the same time, Christmas was absolutely crucial for us in gift wrap, and speaking of fall again, fall is the time to start working on Christmas as well. Some departments start even sooner than fall. As early as July, you start developing Christmas product for the next year. A designer's professional personality deformation, you live in the future and you often feel like it's too late already. I catch myself at the end of August thinking that it's too late to upload Christmas designs now for next year, right? Crazy! And also by the time the actual holiday comes, you don't really feel anything, zero excitement. And my personal experience has been that every year you see next season's product in stores earlier and earlier. At the end of summer, many home decor and hobby stores like Michael's or Home Goods already have an aisle of Halloween products and a couple shelves of Christmas products. It is all done to drive more sales, as they say, to give people more time to buy, before the holidays, to buy gifts for family and friends. What do you think of the ethics of influencing people's buying decisions by, placing products so early in the stores? Let me know in the comments. As a side note, I'm always amazed as a customer, not as a designer, by several things. One is that all this stuff gets purchased in the end. And two, do people throw it away and buy all new stuff every season? Because I personally keep and reuse a lot of my seasonal home decor for at least a few years. My Christmas tree decorations are 10 years old. We bought them the second year we came to America, and we still use them. It is very concerning that people throw away so much stuff. That is one of the things I didn't like about working for a corporation, that it contributes to consumerism and pollution so much. And while I'm not a saint and I also like shopping, I do try to be responsible, buy mostly what I need, use it as long as I can, and then hopefully recycle or dispose of it responsibly. It is something that nags me, we as designers are sort of accomplices to the environmental pollution and this whole chain of using goods. That's why I prefer using print on demand, working with responsible manufacturers, thrifting and recycling. That was a side note that I couldn't but share, and now let's get back to the production cycle. Some categories of products are less dependent on seasonality than others, if at all. For example, wallpaper is not influenced by Halloween or Christmas or Easter. There are its own trends and pattern categories in this area that often stem from classical and historical designs, or are very general, such as stripes and geometrics. Another thing worth mentioning is that more expensive things like wallpaper or bedding are an investment for buyers, so the requirements to design are stricter for those than for short-lived and disposable products such as party supplies, wrapping paper, or greeting cards. What does it mean for designers? It means that there will be more revisions, more time spent perfecting the color and layout of the designs, and so on. In terms of production, the company will also invest more in fabric quality, better trims, better embellishments, and so on. Let me know if you would like a separate video on the calendar for designers, what and when to design. I have also included lots of helpful information in my Skillshare class called Introduction to Surface Pattern and Textile Design. The link is below. Now let's talk about the actual design process. Let's pick a category we design for. For example, we are designing women's apparel for the following fall-winter season. The process can have several starting points. Previous sales results will be very important. Since we're talking about fashion, there are certain silhouettes and designs that are selling very well for each company, and there will be either item numbers or names that we want to reissue in new prints and colors. It can be something like our best-selling Rebecca signature cashmere cardigan, and there will be, for instance, 10 dress styles, 10 cardigan styles that we want to reissue in a new look because they are selling so well. So it's a proven winner. But at the same time, we want to try something exciting and new, jump on a new trend. It should be exciting but not too scary for our customer. For example, a couple years ago, the retro revival trend started out and has been growing and growing ever since. It resulted in bringing back prints and styles from all the decades, from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and finally Y2K, year 2000. And we as a brand, imaginary brand, right, don't want to be left behind, so we can pick up some line-drawn earth tone patterns from the 70s and styles such as polo shirt and elbow patches on blazers, for example. But at the same time, the crazy fashions of Y2K are a little too much for us. So it's very important for each designer and business to not follow the trends blindly or to ignore them completely, but to adapt the trends to your industry, to your target customer as well. If your target customer is a woman in her 50s, there are certain trends that won't work at all, and vice versa. If you are a teenager targeted company, you should definitely milk Y2K dry while it lasts. It's going to start declining sooner or later. Now, since we have tapped into talking about trends, how do you know what is trending? Large companies have entire trend departments that are responsible for forecasting and observing trends. Those can do international travel to look for inspiration and buy products relevant to the business. Trend departments and even design departments themselves also do what is called comp shopping and also turn to the services of trend agencies. Trend agencies are companies such as WGSN that accumulate and process trend data from all over the world. They analyze global street style, fashion shows, trade shows, and whatnot, and forecast what is going to be trending in different product categories. WGSN charges a monthly subscription fee. They are a leader on the market. There are other smaller agencies, but they are definitely the number one that comes to mind. It's very common for larger companies to use their services. So I got to use WGSN a little bit, on different stages of my career. The first time I ever encountered it was when I bought my very first course on textile design. That was around 2016 or 17, I believe. So what the course authors did is shared with us some trend boards that they downloaded from WGSN, was a part of the, free pack of materials, mock-ups, trends. Then I've also used WGSN for a little bit when I was working in-house. You're either given, some trend boards that your manager has already pre-selected for you, or I also did get to log in once and, explore WGSN all by myself. I want to say that it can get a little overwhelming because there are literally hundreds of different trends. There are micro trends and macro trends. And like I said, not everything applies to you and to your business and to the company you're working for. So it's very important to be selective and to understand that you don't have to jump on every single trend. Freelancers and independent designers can do trend research too. It is not as high level as trend agencies. Perhaps they won't be able to forecast too far in advance, but roughly speaking, anybody can do a trend study. You just have to keep your eyes open as a designer, notice and see repetitions. For example, let's take a mushroom motif. I think the first time it appeared everywhere bit by bit was around 2020. You would see like a little mushroom here, a little mushroom there. And now, everything is covered in mushrooms. Any store you go to, mushroom is a part of this, sort of trippy retro aesthetic. And also, of course, it's a fall motif. So it's a good blend of something trendy, something modern, something whimsical and cool, crazy but not too crazy, right? It's a perfectly great commercial motif. But if I notice the motif now, trend forecasting agencies probably started talking about it and predicting the appearance of this motif several years ago. There is also such a thing called the trend cycle. I will include a picture here. Roughly the idea is that, the trend emerges at first. It's like a slope. At first, some people only adapt it. Then, you can see it more and more on the market. Then it's the peak of the mushroom trend. I think that's what it is. We're still, I'm using mushroom as an example. And then in a few years, it will decline. I remember a few years ago, everything was covered in donuts. There were donut patterns, donut motifs. It was literally everywhere. And I remember I made about, 5 or 6 patterns that I uploaded to my microstock websites. But it was kind of a little bit too late already because the donut trend started declining. So I've only had a few sales because, once you notice a trend, jump on it as soon as you can. Sometimes it doesn't pay off. For example, about 2 years ago, there were little berries everywhere. There were berries in, like strawberries in Christmas designs, and I've made some Christmas designs with strawberries. They didn't really work out for me. I think they are beautiful designs, but they're not selling very well for me. So you can never know 100% whether a trend will work out for you particularly, but you have to try and experiment. And the sooner you jump on a trend, the sooner you produce designs and put it out there, the better. And I don't know if you noticed, you probably noticed, checkerboard is definitely peaking right now. There are still lots and lots of checkerboards, and it's extremely versatile, and I have created dozens and dozens of colorways. There's gotta be a certain point, I could keep going. I could make probably 100 colorways of checkerboards, but I'm a living person and I just get sick of something sometimes. So I'm like, okay, I'll stop. That's enough. I've made enough checkerboard designs for now. Also, speaking of WGSN, I don't know, just another side note, just a thought. I don't know if they are actually observing trends or if they are creating the trends themselves. It's an interesting, it's interesting food for thought, because most companies use WGSN. Of course, they log in and they see, this trend board, and they start designing off of it. So it's kind of a cycle. It's a circle where everybody is connected. And did they actually, catch it in the air somewhere, or did they actually start the trend because they posted online? It's like Pantone as well. Pantone is kind of controversial too, it makes a lot of noise, and it seems like, they are a big deal in the design world. But honestly, Pantone color of the year is not so much, like, you don't really have to use it if it doesn't work for your business, right? What they mostly do is they either collab with companies that they have interest in. They are interested in promoting themselves. They don't really care, about your business and how you're going to use this color. So I hope you know what I mean. I also mentioned comp shopping, which means competitive shopping. And it's the practice of analyzing your competitors' products in real time. For example, if your company produces table linens, a group of specialists go shopping to their competitors' stores undercover and buy some samples or take pictures of what the competitor has to offer. It's not illegal or anything like that, but of course you don't go, screaming out that you are comp shopping now. In some stores, where I worked, we went comp shopping close to the headquarters, and we also had our flagman stores there. So the company owned different brands, and there everybody already knew, that these are designers doing their stuff, doing their comp shopping. Not even, our brand stores. Even like there was a store, it's called World Market. It's a great store that features products made in different countries, lots of beautiful textiles from India and things like that, crafts from, all over the world. And I remember I bought table napkins just for myself, but I would buy one because I put it on a cooler in my kitchen, just make a little arrangement. And they're like, are you a designer? And I didn't know what to say, because yes, I am a designer, but I'm not really comp shopping, and I'm just shopping for myself. But they are already so used to seeing designers come and buy, you know, one of each for things like that, for their showcases. So designers and other professionals buy some samples or take pictures of what the competitor has in stock, and perhaps your company will be taking inspiration and introducing similar products. Comp shopping can also be done online. No one is creating in the void, everybody is inspired by one another. There are companies that are more of innovators, but still it's a community, so it's always recycling ideas. It's a common market. No wonder that companies do comp shopping online and in real life. So once the PD team has collected some inspiration, studied trends, done comp shopping, scoured Pinterest, Instagram and whatnot for ideas, collected screenshots and images of interest, studied last year's sales, it's time to do some presentations for the new collection in development. They can create trend boards, mood boards, and color palettes, demonstrating their new finds and design decisions. It will be something like this, but on a much bigger scale. You know, there will be boards up to ceiling covered in, you know, little snippets of fabrics, little, you know, pictures printed out and things like that. So all these swatches and clippings and trims are pinned onto a tall foam board for presentation purposes. Then usually follows a number of meetings where the PD team collectively presents everything to higher ups in design, PD, and most importantly, buyers, people who are responsible for purchasing wholesale products for national and global store networks. Of course, not the entire design and PD team does the presentation. It's usually senior professionals and managers, and sometimes there might be a particularly relevant junior specialist who worked on sourcing the materials for the new collection, or a junior designer. During those meetings, there will be a discussion of the materials presented, and the buyers and managers can make requests and ask for certain things, such as specific colorways or specific trims and so on, as they already know what is selling better in their stores. It depends a lot on geographic location too, as for example, stores in hot zones have a very different assortment than stores in the north. I remember when I worked in-house, there was often an interesting selection of Christmas designs for hot zones, patterns with decorated palm trees instead of the Christmas trees, and flamingos and Christmas lights and so on. It's not something that the entire global chain of stores needs, but definitely a cool local addition to stores in Florida, for example. Or here in New England, we have Cape Cod, which is a popular summer vacation destination, and it's a whole vibe, and there is always a lot of merchandise, you know, Cape Cod themed, ocean themed, that is very popular among the locals, because many people here have relatives in Cape Cod, or they have another house on Cape Cod where they go during summer. And it's a mood, it's a vibe for sure. And you know, design always reflects what is going on in real life. Design reflects people's desires. Design reflects, you know, the events. Remember when we were all stuck at home during COVID, and there was this rise of self-care trend where we suddenly started buying like spa themed merchandise, or like movies. If there is a new movie, right, there will be collaborations like Bridgerton eyeshadow palettes, right, and whatnot, or Barbie movie last year, and there's so much pink stuff as well, just, you know, putting it very simply. After the details have been discussed, the product development team starts working on the new collection. The things they can do is pull existing artwork, that's when we get to the artwork, from archives, or buy new artwork from studios and design agents. I have made great videos on both topics, be sure to check them out. And then, looking at their inspiration sources, they will develop similar new prints, and the sourcing part of the PD team will connect to the right vendors and negotiate on the necessary fabrics and trims or paper, or the necessary shape of the plates and glasses, I mean like cups and whatnot. Cups they are developing from the right kind of plastic, for example. It is very important to remember to be respectful of copyright and not take the inspiration to the point of plagiarism. Even if we are repeating some things after another company or design, we have to be very mindful as not to breach the copyright and not to plagiarize the design and art. And I have a video for you on that topic as well. I invite you to watch it, and I'll share the links above and below and everywhere. Links are everywhere, right? When the color palette has been compiled by the design team and the patterns have been selected, designers get to work. At first, when artwork is purchased from print studios, in 99% of cases it is far from the final variant, especially in terms of color. The senior designer responsible for purchasing the artwork usually looks beyond the color and can just tell that this artwork can be recolored and modified by the team of in-house designers. But first, the artwork needs to be CADed, and it's the process that can take several weeks. CADing means prepping the file for production, color reducing it, and putting it in repeat. I have a video for you about that topic, don't miss it. I mentioned it in the beginning as well. So now that we know, what season, category we are working on, we can recolor the artwork into necessary colorways. After about a week or two, there will be more meetings as the new collection is starting to take shape more and more. After several rounds of meetings, where some of the hard work done by the designers can actually get chopped, because buyers may deem that they have two designs with a similar feel in the same collection, or they just feel the designs are not strong enough, the collection will finally be approved, which means the artwork will be sent to the overseas vendor in order to mix up the dyes, print the textiles, and sew the actual product. Our table linens and clothes, right? As you probably know, many vendors are located in China and other countries like India, Bangladesh, Turkey, and so on. So when we are prepping this very important documentation for the vendor called specs or specifications, we as designers work with different templates. The company usually has templates or files that they reuse, so you don't have to recreate them from scratch every single time. It will be a waste of time, right? For the textiles, we usually have a call-out sheet with at least one repeating unit, but rather stepped out so you can see a little bit more of the product, the repeat sizes and color chips, and the template itself will depend on the product. So for a bedding set, you will have a mock-up with 2 or 4 pillows, bed sheet, and a blanket. For wrapping paper, the template is just a giant rectangle because it will be a roll of wrapping paper. For a plate, the template is also easy, it's just a circle. Things get a little trickier when we are working with three-dimensional things such as boxes. For example, look at this tin box. It's not my design, I didn't work on it. I just bought it as a customer. It's by Thornback and Peel, a British brand, which actually closed last year. I was so bummed. I really like their artwork. So see, when a designer was templating this box, it started with this center, and then see there is artwork, continuous artwork on the sides, so this had to be reflected on the template, and it was probably something like this rectangle, and then those, when you flatten a cardboard box, you can see all the sides, and here there's actually artwork on the bottom, so this also had to be reflected somewhere. So I didn't work on tins, but I have worked on cardboard boxes that I use for storage, where you can store photographs, for example, or store some kind of clippings or materials or thread, bobbins, and whatnot. Here I actually keep stamps because I collect stamps. I basically put them in here and then I never open this box again. Oh my. So yeah, that's a story for another video. Or for a gift bag, let's look at this gift bag that I designed. I recolored this artwork when I was working for TJX. The artwork belongs to them, but I did the colorway. Look, this thing is called gusset, so sometimes you will have this continuous pattern on the front, back, and the gusset. It's always the easiest thing to do, but sometimes you have actually color gussets or like a different pattern gusset. There's a pattern inside, and there is this thing called flap with the candles, right? So when you are sending a spec to your vendor, you have to tell the vendor that you want it to be this way. There's actually artwork on the bottom here too. So this looks like a flattened, you'll see this twice you will see the flap on top, and you will see the bottom as well, and this is called a tag. You also have to choose artwork for the tag. So when you are speccing this for the vendor, you have to tell them, you also have to tell them the repeat size, because this is a repeating pattern. So your job as a designer is to put the artwork on the template, write down the repeat sizes, colors, you know, solid colors. Maybe you're calling out a Pantone color for the inside, and you can include other information for the vendor, such as the use of glitter or foil on this bag. This one doesn't have any, but sometimes you have glitter accents, you know, or gold foil accents, and you have to mention that on the spec as well. Or if you are speccing a pillow, you also have to tell them, you know, here we have a little pom-pom, and here we have an embroidery in this color. Right, so this is your job as a designer. After the artwork has been perfected, approved, placed on templates, and sometimes printed out on paper using high quality white printers, it is then sent to the vendor, who will mix up the colors, print the fabric, make some samples of fabric or paper. I'm all over the place now, right? For fabric, they make samples, or what is called strike-offs, which is a piece of fabric sent back to the client for approval, so that they can get a taste before the vendor prints 10,000 units. Sometimes the artwork is only sent digitally, but when the fabric is printed with screen printing method, the vendor needs to see paper printouts, so they can use it as a standard to mix up the color, you know, match the color, and make sure, you know, because we spend so much time in-house perfecting those colors, we want our bedding manufacturer to mix precisely those colors, and, you know, it's really, really important. Quality control is performed on different stages of the production and even sales. I will get back to that last one in a minute. At the factory, the quality control is in place to make sure the dyes are safe, and of course to make sure the product is sewn properly, and so on. After the client has seen the samples and maybe asked for a few tweaks, you know, sometimes they mix up the cream color, for example, and it looks extremely yellow, it's too dark. So you write back to the vendor saying, hey, thanks for trying, thank you for sending the samples, but the cream color is actually too yellow. Would you mind getting back to our printouts, you know, and matching the color more precisely? When everything has been approved, the vendor will produce the quantities ordered, package them, and ship over. And actually there is also a packaging department in a big company that is responsible for, you know, putting different, what is that called? Oh my god, it's called something like a belly loop or something. You know, I'm not very good at packaging. I didn't design packaging specifically, but it will be things like, you know, the use of branding, where does the barcode go, and things like that. Well, I wish I had better examples of packaging over here. See, for example, here I have this box of chocolates, right? It used to be chocolates inside, so they have to call out to put this ribbon here, right? They have to put out the logo. The shape of the box had to be agreed on as well. So when the vendor finally packages the goods and ships them over, literally, because it's done by sea very often, it goes to the company's distribution centers, and when the products hit the stores, the store managers and merchandising staff make sure the products are ticketed with pricing and distributed at the store in the most appealing ways. For example, you know, sometimes you go to a store and you see they like to organize products by color, and sometimes I see, like, in the back there is a sheet of paper with notes for whoever's doing the merchandising, whoever's placing the products on the shelves, and it's like, start with I think they go by the rainbow. It's like from reds and pinks to blues or whatever, you know. And I'm sure a lot of research has been done on that to make sure it's, you know, more visually appealing. It is another department that does that. Maybe not even one department. For example, I have a friend who worked at the same company with me. She is in finance, and her responsibility was to study the data and to check things like, what if you place, for example, you mentioned something about baby shoes, and she's like, what if you put baby shoes next to strollers? How does it reflect on the data? You know, do we sell more strollers this way? Do we sell more baby shoes this way? So there are lots and lots of people who, you know, study sales, and I always say, you know, as someone who wasn't born in America, Americans are genius at sales. They will sell you anything and everything. They just will take all the money from your wallet. You know, there is so much psychology going on, there is so much research going on. You know, there is this certain smell in the air when you enter the store, certain lighting and things like that. So trust me, it is all being taken care of. Your job is just to go there and, you know, make a lot of impulse purchases. You've probably heard about things like, you know, when you are standing in a line and there are those aisles and shelves with like little trinkets, things that don't sell very well, or snacks and drinks, and it's all done on purpose because people are thirsty, people are hungry and angry and bored waiting in line, so they just grab that stuff. And I do that too, you know, and I'm aware of it, but I still keep doing that. So talking about quality control that I mentioned briefly, what the PD team often does even after the product is already in stores is they go shopping at different stores and locations from the chain and buy an item or two for quality control. Because of course, when the vendor is sending you a selection of goods for quality control, they will choose the best items. But when 50,000 units were printed, sewn, packaged and sent to multiple stores, there may be some mishaps. For example, last year I was, you know, shopping and I saw a gift bag that I had worked on previously. I wasn't already working for the company, but you know, I still shop at their stores all the time. I still like the stores. So I saw a gift bag with a printing error. I mentioned there is this flap. And the thing is, when you're calling out gold metallic or silver metallic, there is a separate sheet on the call out where we denote metallic with a bright, crazy acid color. The goal of it is to point out like, hey, this is metallic. There is a hot stamp printing machine, so that callout sheet with the crazy color is specifically for the use of that machine. So there is a specific sheet for just printing this color for all artwork. But then if I want, for example, the tag to be gold metallic and the flap to be gold metallic, I will use a different artboard in Adobe Illustrator and call out, you know, with neon green, I'll call out that this is gold metallic. So what the vendor did by mistake, they printed the neon green color. They did not print gold. So there was apparently a misunderstanding and they accidentally printed this green color instead of the gold metallic. And it should have been caught at some, you know, stage of the production, but it wasn't. And the product arrived in stores and I was like, whoa! You know, I worked on the design. It was a Christmas ballerina gift bag. The artwork is really beautiful, but apparently there was a portion of the order that got misprinted, and it's not okay, it's not good, it's a big problem. And of course there will be people inside the company figuring out how that had happened and, you know, what can be done to fix it. But you know, it's human error, nobody is a robot, so things do happen. Of course it's very not ideal and not desirable, but at the same time it's not the end of the world. And then the cycle happens again. We'll look at bestsellers, inspiration and artwork, and develop new products. You know, as you push out your fall and harvest, you are starting to develop Christmas. After Christmas, we develop coastal artwork for January, February, you know, March, and then we are going into spring holidays, Mother's Day, graduation, and so on. And then we have summer artwork, bright, colorful, tropical, and whatnot. And then we're back to fall. Another interesting part of the retail product development process that comes somewhere after receiving samples is working on the catalog and doing all the photo shoots with products and casting models. They are demonstrating clothes, for example. So I'll show you a couple examples here once I find them. So let's do some show and tell now. So this is a freshly acquired Talbot's catalog. It just arrived yesterday. It says October 2024 and today is September 18th. So see, they send it in early. And Talbot's is actually a local brand. It's about 1 hour 15 minutes away drive for me. I never worked there, but I worked with someone who used to work there, with another designer. But this is just an example, you know. I used to buy a lot of their clothes. I used to have their credit card, which I closed this year because credit cards are evil. But you know, they still send me the catalogs, and catalogs are a great way to study trends and to see what is happening. And also I wanted to tell you that this is a lot of hard work. So see, usually companies hire models and they fly them to some cool countries. This is Denmark. If you open this catalog, it says here that this was shot in Denmark, and all these photos are extremely important, and everything has been agreed upon by the team, like what is on page 2, what is on page 5. This is very, very important. They are selling you this fantasy. See, I looked at this, I was like, this is totally me at the workshop. I'm taking a painting workshop in October in New Hampshire in the mountains, and I'm like, this is so me walking with flowers, right? Talbot's is known as a brand for, you know, women who are slightly older, so it's like a little grandmotherly, sometimes a little frumpy, I'm gonna say it, but I don't necessarily agree with it. They do have some clothes that look very, very old-fashioned, but they also have a lot of very cool classic styles, right? And I wear a lot of their shirts in these videos that I make here. I have a lot of their blazers and pants, so they do have a lot of cool. This is not an integration and not an ad, but it could be. Talbots, if you are listening to this, call me. So what I wanted to tell you is, so see, these photo shoots are a lot of work, and some companies have their own photo studios, and I worked at a different company, which I'm gonna tell you about in a minute, and they did have their own photo studio. But they also told me, like, we, you know, hire models and we fly models to beautiful locations. Last year there was a catalog shot in Portugal, you know, for Talbot. So let me show you the other one. So this company called Garnet Hill is the one that I interned at. They are in New Hampshire. They have several locations. It doesn't really matter. Okay, forget about that. So it's called Garnet Hill. This is October 2017, and what is remarkable about this catalog is that there is a design that I actually did for them. So I was an intern there in summer of, I guess it was 2016, because this is, you know, the following year. And, you know, I was a baby designer. I was still in college. It was, you know, the summer before my last semester. I was about to graduate. It was a paid internship, which is amazing because very often interns are not paid. You know, everybody loves free labor, but Garnet Hill actually paid me, and it wasn't bad at all. Of course, as an intern, and I'm planning to make a video about design internships at some point as well. Let me know if you would like it sooner. As an intern, you know, you usually do work like filing, cleaning up the archives, you know, cleaning up. No, I don't mean like cleaning actually the floor or anything, but like organizing folders, organizing Pantone swatches. And I was very annoyed at that because I was like, I want to learn to design. I don't want to organize Pantone swatches. But of course, they have their own work that needs to be done, so they use you the way they intend to and they need to. But what I was going to say, you don't really expect much there. So I did some things. I cleaned up some patterns for them. I was not very good at Photoshop and Illustrator. Illustrator I was like really bad at. Photoshop I was kind of okay at the time. I recolored some prints for them. I like put some things in repeat. Everything was taking forever. I was very, very slow. One day they asked me to do an embroidery design. So I went to their textiles archives, which is, you know, essentially a big room with bins and with hangers where they keep artwork that they purchase. And they asked me to pull some embroidery from there. So embroidery swatches that they own. So I picked, you know, about 10 or 15 embroidery strike-offs, and you know, then I scanned them and then I manipulated them and I turned them into this embroidery design. And I will include the artwork here. I hope Garnet Hill will not sue me for this. Everything you ever touch, everything you ever do becomes a part of your portfolio, your design portfolio. And if you have an opportunity to buy, you know, a magazine like this, and they actually sent me this magazine. It was not related to my internship. It was just because I was a customer and I was buying things. So they sent me this catalog, and of course I saved it because it has my design in it. And how cool is that? I created this embroidery design. They made the cardigan, right? They hired a beautiful model. They flew to some kind of location like Iceland, or I don't know where this is. They don't disclose, I think, where it was shot. Yeah, I don't see it here, but look, it looks beautiful. And then that was my first, I think, moment. What is funny about it is that by the time this catalog came out, yeah, this is my personal one, but I was working at TJX already at that time, my big, you know, design job that I did for 4 years. And we were doing research. We were doing, you know, developing the collection, doing the mood boards with my new design manager. And she brought in like a heap of magazines, catalogs like this. And we were looking through them, looking for ideas for our fall collection 2018 we were developing. And I saw this and I was like, I actually designed this. I was like, oh, can you imagine this first feeling ever, like to see your work in real life? It's amazing, it's mind-blowing. And she was like, oh, cool. So she wasn't very impressed. Well, of course, I have to say, you know, as you are a corporate designer, you're not the star. No one's supposed to celebrate you and credit you. It's just like little, you know, personal victories, little celebrations. And to me, it does matter to see, you know, my work appreciated. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I left, you know, the corporation. That cardigan is actually still for sale, and I was thinking of buying it for a while. I will include some photos here, but then I was like, what am I gonna do with it, right? But I think actually I'm kind of nearing that age group, and I think now I can actually wear that cardigan. It will look kind of nice on me. Do you think I should buy it? Let me know in the comments. I mean, it's for sale on eBay or, you know, the Poshmark or whatever the reseller websites are. Those are treasure troves, you guys. You can find almost anything if you thrift, you know, eBay, Poshmark, ThreadUp, and things like that. Do you use any? Let me know in the comments. I also want to talk about these catalogs from a slightly different perspective, a model's perspective, right? I mentioned that they hire beautiful models, and you know, I briefly mentioned in one of my previous videos that 2 years ago I started doing commercial modeling, and my goal was actually to be in catalogs like this. So I feel like it's a little unrelated to the topic, but I will tell the story at the very end of this video. Make sure you watched until the end if you are interested in that. So catalogs can also include not necessarily models. It can be, you know, flat lays like this, you know, photographing boots, photographing merchandise. Let me see, you know, sweaters like this. So it's photography too. It's also a part of promoting the product manufactured. Very often it'll be products with patterns, what we like, right? But first of all, let me finish the topic here. Designing actual prints and patterns is a similar product. We often start with a trend and mood board. Mood boards are not mandatory, but a very helpful step in designing, especially if you're planning to create collections or if you are working off a trend. At this step, you can also contemplate on your color palette and compile some pretty color palettes, either by using color chips from paint stores, you know, the physical chips, or of course you can do it digitally, you know, have a digital color palette. Having a cohesive color palette can be very helpful in building a strong print and pattern collection. Let me know if you would like a separate video on specifically designing textile design collections and prints. Although I do have a video about collections that isn't very popular, give it some more love. I'll share a link here. I feel like today is the record. I have shared so many of my videos, but like I mentioned before, it's not because I'm pushing you to watch my videos. Is that I feel like everything is so related and so connected. Even like I'm going to talk about models in a second. It's all related to product. It's all related to shopping and production. And I think it's so cool. And I, as a person, like finding those connections in, you know, how things are related to each other, one another. So I wanted to talk a little bit about models and about these catalogs. So I was there when Garnet Hill was working on the catalog, and it was the first time I ever realized how important catalogs are, because previously, being a customer, I always thought, who cares about catalogs, like everything's online, this just goes in recycling, but actually they call it the book, and I was like, what's the book, what are you guys talking about? So they call it the book, and like I said, every single position in this catalog is extremely important. They will discuss, what needs to be on the front, what needs to be on the back, what needs to be on page 1 and 2 and 3. And I actually remember slight mentions. I'm not going to say like for sure, but I felt like there was something like even the model matters. Like they want to have this specific person on this specific page in this specific dress because she sells better, and let's talk about models now. So like I said, 2 years ago I decided that it's finally time to become a model. I wanted to be a model back when I was like 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. I was tall and skinny, and I was told all the time that I should be a model, and it was the 90s, so the supermodels were really, really big, and I really felt like I could be one of them. But years went by. I did make some attempts. I went to like castings, but I lived in a small town, in Belarus, my home country. There are 6 cities in the entire country, so I lived in one of them, one of the 6 cities, but they are still, not as big, and you don't have as many modeling opportunities, of course. I think it's kind of good maybe that I didn't become a model back then, because I would probably have ended with body issues and, eating disorders. I still have those, but I feel like it could have been so much worse. But so I'll tell you what happened. So in year 2022, 21, was it 21? Oh my god, doesn't matter. Okay, I met a person. So I met her here. She recently came from Ukraine, and she was this teeny tiny little person, beautiful girl, but honestly nothing special, like a regular girl you would meet somewhere in the street. And she's like, I'm a model, and I was shocked. I was like, she's a model, like she's short, and she's not even that, model looking. It's like a regular normal person. So I was like, I think I want to do it. I think I want to become a model too. It wasn't just that. It was a combination of, there were like wars and pandemics, and it kind of felt at some point like the world was going to end, really. I know it's not funny, but I was like, if not now, when? It might never happen. And the second reason was, I was around 38 at the time, and I was starting to feel like, my looks are beginning to fade, and I'm like, what if I never, I'd never even tried to become a model. So I was like, I'm gonna do this. And getting back to catalogs, right? So there are different subdivisions in modeling. Of course, the top high tier is runway models, and they are your traditional looking, very tall, very slender, young girls. So that's the golden standard, and that's the, what everybody strives for in the modeling world. But the thing is, when you get a little bit older, when you get older than 30, or God forbid, please understand the irony here, you gain a little bit of weight, so you can't be the runway model anymore. This is an extremely big and complicated topic, and I'm sure you've heard of body positivity and body inclusivity, but I think you probably also heard that we are going backwards now with the popularity of Y2K trends and all those clothes that look so good just on very, very fragile people, let's say it that way. So I was like, okay, I understand I am not going to be a runway model, and I don't want to, but I can be a commercial model. And honestly, anybody really can be a commercial model. It just has to be like pleasant looks, nice smile. And so I wanted to be in one of these fashion catalogs, but it actually turned out later on that this is not as innocent as it looks. So these are supermodels, actually. I learned that later, let's take these are all Talbot's catalogs, and like I said, I used to buy a lot from them. They still keep sending me those. So this is Rachel Roberts, who was really big in the 90s. She was a supermodel. She was in a movie, I think, called Simone, I believe. She was in one of Rihanna's videos not so long ago. This is Nikki Taylor, who is also America's supermodel, very, very popular. And this is Eugenia Silva, a Spanish model too. So I don't know how naive I had to be to think that I could be, together with these women in the same catalog. And like I said, this is a fantasy, this is a famous one too. No, not her, but they are all very high class elite models. And I had a separate Instagram for my modeling efforts where I dug up and followed them, and you can see they look completely different and way more glamorous than they look in these catalogs for, like I said, women in 50 plus, 60 plus, gorgeous women, by the way. And there are so many things in this whole modeling and catalog topic for me. It's like getting a little bit older, getting a little bit less attractive. Can you still make it? Can you still, use your looks somehow? So I actually stopped modeling after 2 years. I had an agent who, sent me castings, but very quickly you realize this is not going to happen ever. Maybe if I lived in New York, that could have been a possibility. I could have gone to more castings. But here, my goal was to, model very locally. Just give it a try, give it a shot, take a taste of it. And I did. And I realized that, I'm not going to be a runway model, and I don't want to. And I'm not going to be in one of these catalogs probably. But if by any chance, Talbots, you don't want me to promote more of your shirts, but you would like me to model in your catalogs, I'm open. Call me or message me. So in terms of, for models, of course they want to be in all the luxury brands campaigns, right? This is considered to be a little bit inferior, commercial modeling. And it's very personal, some models are happy to do that, but some models really disdain, being a commercial model. That is like a lower tier of modeling. But for example, brands like Talbot's pay their models a lot. So it's a good gig, maybe it's not your dream job, but it's, what pays the bills. And they also, like I said, they fly you to a beautiful destination. See, like somewhere in Europe. So why not? And like I said, I followed a lot of them, and they take pictures together, and they are already, they have done so many campaigns over decades. It's the same models all the time. Like Nikki Taylor has been on so many covers. Also, there are people who collect these magazines because they like these models so much. And of course, these photo shoots, they are a work of art. They are done by professional photographers. They are done by professional models. This is one of my favorites. Her name is Kat. I forgot her last name. I'm gonna write it here. She lives in New York. She's originally French. She has a daughter, a teenage daughter. She had her very early when she was 18 years old. See? So that's my modeling journey. I was gonna say I stopped modeling. I only did 2 paid gigs. One was a background role in a casino. My face wasn't even on camera. I was, in the background, but I got paid, and I got paid the room and, the food and everything. So it was great. And the second one, which is the funniest thing ever, I was in a commercial for the company I used to work for TJX. It was an internal training video for store managers and buyers, and they specifically needed a person with a Russian accent. So I wasn't even that pretty. It wasn't because of my looks, it was just because of my accent. So when my agent sent me the casting, I was like, well, okay, let's try, why not? But it felt super weird, because I used to work there, and now I'm in a casting for a commercial. I was like, there's no way that they're gonna choose me. There is no way. Of course they chose me. Apparently there was nobody in the Boston area with a better Russian accent. So I did that commercial, and I was like, this is freaking hilarious. Can you imagine if one of my former co-workers see that video? It was also a very cringy moment for me personally, because it was actually a lot of text. I had to learn the text, and I had to be on set with professional actors, and the text was very difficult to learn because it was this like corporate talk that is not natural. It was like, I'm pursuing my goals in merchandising and things like that. But I learned the text. You know, we did shoot it in one day. It took maybe like 6 hours, I think, the photo shoot. They bought us lunch, and it was in the same building that I used to work in as a designer. So how crazy is that? I was laughing. I was like, is there only one enterprise in the entire area that wants to hire me? That is ridiculous. But I think it's also very funny and very ironical at the same time. If you want to know more about my modeling efforts or anything whatsoever, I'm always hesitant if I need to talk about it. I'm like, does anybody even care about this? That's why I'm putting it at the end. So let me know if you are curious about, you know, anything else, any other questions, my life, my tastes and whatnot. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate your little like. You know, use the YouTube love language. I know it's annoying when I beg for your likes and votes, not votes, likes and subscribing and all that stuff, but it's very, very important for YouTube, you know, to see that this video is relevant, that people like it, so it can be recommended to more people. Don't forget to subscribe. Please do, because many people watch my videos without subscribing. And share this video with your art buddies, ask questions in the comments, watch my Skillshare class, and remember, patterns are everywhere. The pattern and art world is very small. Everything is connected, everything is related. Have a lovely day.